Introduction. Hi, my name is Jerzy and welcome to the Personal Work Organization online course. I created this course because there's far too much content in the productivity space that talks about delayed gratification, hustling and sacrificing today's happiness for a vaguely defined future success. And my 20 years of corporate experience have taught me the exact opposite. You see, the most important thing is what you believe. And if you believe that you should sacrifice your happiness, your balance and your well-being today in order to be successful in the future, you are on a fast track to burnout, living an unfulfilled life and regretting it. But you can believe that it is possible to have a good professional life and also a family and time for yourself. I'd like to convince you that if you replace hustling with systems, long to-do lists with thinking about your goals, and bad, outdated tools by new performant ones, you can be productive, grounded, and live a fulfilling life right now and in the future. And not only in the future. Let's go! Who is this course for? This course is for corporate employees. Regardless of the role or the industry you work for, the problems you face are the same in a law firm, in a consulting, and in production or even restaurant management. This course is for people at the beginning and in the middle of their professional careers. The pressures you feel as an assistant are the same as those you feel as a manager. The timing in your career is just different, and how you think of yourself is just different. This course is for people wanting to find a job in a larger consulting firm or corporation and want to distance themselves from the rest of the applicants by the personal organization and communication skills they have. Who am I? I'm a director of operations and a business owner that 20 years ago started his corporate career as an assistant, after graduating from college and working as a freelance translator. I was looking for a job where I will be able to use my French, since I spent half of my life in a French-speaking country, in Tunisia. And that's how I joined a French international law firm. Funny that now I teach a course in English. I learned the hard way during the 2008 financial crisis and then the 2020 coronavirus crisis that personal organization, diversification and communication are extremely important if you want to have a good life. Where my colleagues were dropping the ball or working overtime, I was at all points able to have a balanced life, even in times of uncertainty and crisis. I saw then that people are extremely attached to how they work and are unwilling to change how they work, even if it brings them only stress, anxiety and long hours. It's then that I decided to create this course, since it's far easier to change how we work when we do it with a guide and not during stressful black swan events. For the last 10 years, I have tried all the productivity strategies, planners and applications that are available out there. GTD, Para, time blocking, you name it, as well as traditional waterfall, PMP, Prince2 project management, agile project management and various hybrid methods. Most of them are either too complicated or very rapidly become overwhelming. Frankly speaking, only professional program or project managers need to work like that. Everybody else will be better served by using a simpler method. The method I teach in this course is a patchwork of the most effective and human-friendly parts of all those smart books and productivity strategies I consumed during the last 10 years. The result is a surprisingly simple yet very well grounded in pragmatism method of approaching your areas of responsibility. This method is tested in practice. Right now I am responsible for operations, IT, marketing, communications and facilities management at the firm where I work. And additionally, I have co-founded a product company with my wife. I am also a happy father of 2 daughters, and I have a lot of time every day for playing with them and showing them the world. I also don't have a personal assistant. All of this means that you can successfully lead various areas of responsibility and different projects in your life without feeling overwhelmed, as long as you plan it and follow up consistently, with a deep focus on executing first what is the most important next action in each project or area of your responsibility. Sounds good? Let's go! What problems will we solve? First one is the problem of lack of time to think. This is the most painful problem of the 21st century. Another one is the problem of everything is important and urgent. Same here. The problem of poor communication. This is genuinely difficult but brings the most long-term satisfaction. And last but not least, the problem of poor tools. Yeah, Windows and SharePoint, you get the idea. Now let me elaborate. When you join a company, you're on your own. Yeah. Even if you happen to work in one of the rare companies that know how to onboard a new employee, you're still on your own. Really. Even though most companies offer some tools that can help get things done, the majority of those tools are either not adapted to the work you are doing, or you are not trained on how to use them efficiently and intentionally. Example, you know how to type a letter in MS Word, but can you use headings and cross-references? Or are you aware that there is a task list built natively into Outlook? Very often, what the company offers as tools is old tech that is more likely to make you lose time than to help you achieve your goals. In contrast, personal organization tools that you will choose for yourself without asking anyone for permission can help you achieve your goals much faster than the company's old tech. And you will not break any internal company rules. A lot of new approaches to doing the work are simply not adopted by older companies because either the people responsible for those choices have become risk-averse or they prefer to comfortably remain in the status quo. Don't blame them for that. Play with the cards that you're dealt with and be the change you want to see in the world. In other words, improve your personal organization, communication, and the processes that you are a part of, and the rest will, sooner or later, at this company or at your next job, follow. What outcomes will you get? You will gain at least 8 hours every week that you will be able to spend however you like. You will learn how to prioritize your work in order to advance what matters most to you. You will get the perspective you need to evaluate what makes sense in your work and what doesn't. You will receive precise personal tools recommendations that will make a big difference in the way you work. Those tools will mostly be free, if possible, and future-proof. Always, which means you will not risk being locked in an ecosystem or, in other words, risk having your data being rendered inaccessible to you in the future. You will be less stressed, less anxious, and have a feeling of control over your day-to-day work. Your boss, your colleagues at work, but also your girlfriend, boyfriend, or spouse, all of them will think that you are an organization and productivity genius. You will have a trustworthy system that will guarantee that you will never forget anything, but also that you will make sense of the things that happen in your life, and you will learn how to draw conclusions to identify opportunities amongst them. Let's start by examining 7 useful universal statements about work. Some universal statements. Your boss is both your biggest help and the worst hindrance. It's thanks to the management board of the company that a long-term strategy for the company is made. But at the same time, this same management board, in the form of individual management board members, will ask through their direct reports to do the exact opposite of what was stated in this long-term strategy. It's up to you to figure out what you have to follow and what you can safely ignore. It's thanks to your boss that you can focus on your work and not care about politics and decisions at higher levels of the organization or in other departments. This is made with the intent to help you do your work efficiently. But at the same time, this same boss will interrupt your focus time, ask you to do contradictory things, and communicate very poorly when delegating tasks to you, all of which will make your work actually harder, longer, and less efficient. If you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. This is my favorite line from Greg McKeown's book, Essentialism. It means that if you run away from making very difficult choices in accordance with what is important for you, someone else in your life, maybe your boss, maybe your friend, maybe your spouse, someone else will make those choices for you, and you will not be satisfied with the outcome. That's why thinking about what you value in life, planning in accordance with this priority, and being ruthless in allocating time and focus to actually achieve it is so important. My second favorite line from the Essentialism book is, which problem do you want? And it's actually a very good question to ask yourself when planning. Don't think of what you want to achieve, but rather of what negative outcomes are you willing to accept when working towards what is important for you. This will make prioritizing a lot easier. An example, of course. For me, I am willing to accept passive-aggressive comments of my coworkers and stingy management comments about how much time I spend in the office in order to have time to spend with my family and have the time to work on my side businesses. And I know, because I tested it, that as long as I bring the results the management wants me to bring, they will never go beyond the stingy comments, because I'm actually solving them real business pains and problems. Another example would be to accept not socializing so much with friends, i.e. drinking beers, in order to have the energy to wake up earlier and go running every day to improve your immunity and health. This is an example of intentional prioritizing and making strategic decisions. Work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. It's called the Parkinsons Law. And it doesn't mean that you should always wait until the last moment in order to complete the tasks you want to do in a given day. It's a reminder that you can be more ambitious with the time you allocate to certain tasks. Giving yourself 30 minutes to finish a task instead of 2 hours will motivate you to actually do it faster and to be more focused on your work. Finishing projects is hard. Only a small number of people are able to finish projects without feeling an overwhelming need to quit at about 90% of the project. From my experience, the last 10% of the project takes the same amount of energy to be completed as the first 90%. Even the most senior employees and managers want to quit at 90%. It's universal. It's true for all the people that participate in the project, but it's especially true for those who manage or are responsible for key decisions. As if the last 10% of the work was directly related to the weight of those decisions that already were made and have to be made until the end of the project. If you are aware of it, you will be able to acknowledge that it's happening and patiently go through those last 10% until the finish line. Seth Godin writes in The Practice, "Writers write, runners run. Establish your identity by doing your work." Employees ship their work on a day-to-day basis, on good days and on bad days. The quality of your work will not matter if you don't ship, or in other words, if you don't finish. That is why finishing projects, finishing work is very important. Your work is too important to be left to how you feel today. This was a quote from Seth Godin again. Nobody cares about your excuses. If you work in a large company, you might be tempted to procrastinate harder tasks because it's harder to see at first glance what's not being done if the company is big. The problem is that what is not done will always resurface suddenly at some point, usually when you will be the less prepared for it to happen. The best way, of course, is to not procrastinate, but if it catches you, then please avoid excuses. Nobody will care about them really. Approach the situation as a professional. Excuses will not make the work suddenly get done. And the work is why you are here. So just start doing what needs to be done. Even if it's a little bit too late now, do or do not. There is no try, as Master Yoda said. It's always your fault. When things don't go as planned at work, which is very frequent actually, because we just don't control everything around us, it's tempting to blame others, the weather, or maybe some institution. But the truth is that it's always your fault. You're the one who listened to the advice that gave you the problem you have now. You are the one who left the outcome up to chance, who didn't plan for all the contingencies. You are the one whose expectations set you up to be disappointed. The famous Stoic Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius' rule was: blame yourself or blame no one. And you'll be surprised how few people understand that and restrain for blaming others, especially at work, especially in big corporations. It's unbelievable. By following this simple rule, you will instantly catapult yourself to the top 2% of all the employees in your company, because you will suddenly start acting as if the business was yours and as if you were a stakeholder and not only an employee, not only a cog in a bigger machine. Your employer actually pays you for something else. There is a famous saying amongst HR people and recruiters that goes like this: we hire for skill, but we fire for attitude. The statistics prove it. Almost 90% of people fired in the first year of their work are fired for attitudinal reasons. If you think of your work that way, your employer actually pays you more for your attitude than for your skill. The skill is getting you through the door in the recruitment process, but later it's all about your attitude. Being well organized, less stressed, and more welcoming to the clients, to your colleagues, and to your boss will have a positive impact on how you're seen in the firm, and your attitude will be appreciated, which may lead to a faster promotion, or at least to not losing your job. So, let me summarize those 7 truths about work. In order to be helpful to your boss, use her influence to your advantage. Work in accordance with your life priorities in such a way that you live the life you want. Work fast and finish projects. Make no excuses and ship consistently good quality work while having it all under control and showing positive attitude. You can achieve all of this by organizing your work around 3 buckets. Organization. The 3 buckets. In order to manage all the types of tasks, communication and ideas, both in your professional life and also in your family and personal projects, you need to create 3 buckets. Those buckets can be either analog or digital, or both. A calendar. The first one is a calendar. At this point, you probably already use a calendar because it's pretty much mandatory for meetings at work. If not, I urge you to start using one. It will free your mind from remembering where you should be, when, and with whom. The purpose of a calendar is to store information about all the events that require your physical presence in a geographical place at a certain time and at a certain date. It also serves to block automatically your time. And this definition is very important since it's so easy to misuse the calendar for other things that actually should be stored in the remaining two buckets, which we'll discuss later on. Analog or digital? Although I love paper notebooks and I'm a big proponent of using as much analog things in your life as you can, I actually prefer using a digital calendar since it's much simpler to create, move events around, invite people to meetings and attach notes and files to those meetings. But what is the purpose of a calendar in the first place? How to use a calendar? Create a calendar event for all the meetings you plan with other people and invite them to those meetings by sending them a calendar invite to their email address. Create calendar events also for all the trips and errands you have to perform, like visits at the laundry, shopping, trips to the postal office, and so on. Why? Well, because all those events also require your physical presence somewhere in the world, on a given day and at a given hour. Create calendar events for the time you spend on yourself. Visits at the gym, runs, meditation sessions, yoga, all of this should be scheduled in your calendar. If it's scheduled, it's more likely that you will actually do it. Don't enter tasks into your calendar, since it's not the purpose of the calendar to store your tasks. But you can use the calendar to estimate the time you will have to use in order to execute a task when you decide to execute it. This is called time blocking, and it can help you not overschedule your days and be fairly realist in the number of tasks you plan for the day. It's thanks to time blocking that I have the time for my family and for my side businesses. So I'm gonna show you how a very well executed time blocking looks like, and then how a badly executed time blocking looks like. So the Tuesday, the 4th of January, here, it's actually a very well executed time blocking because from the time I wake up at 4 a.m. to the time I go home, pretty much every hour of my day is very well blocked. I know exactly what I'm doing each hour of the day, so you can see, and there is no overlap between events. So I know that here I have 2 hours to work on reading and modifying the leasing agreement, and that's everything I'm gonna do. Then linearly I will proceed to talking with Anna, then I will proceed to checking email, etc. So there is no overlap. And here is an example of a poorly executed time blocking, because as you can see, there's overlap between what I will be doing, which is in gray, and some meetings, which is in yellow. And so this is bad practice, because if I look here, I don't know really whether I should start reading and modifying the leasing agreement or going to this meeting, or going maybe to this meeting. Should I prepare the report for the management board or go make photos? So as you can see, this is poorly executed time blocking because you cannot be in two places at the same time. You can either be doing the photo shoot or preparing the report, not both. It's wise to create at least 2 different calendars, one for your meetings and the second one for blocking your time. This second calendar can work also separately or be synchronized to your tasks application if you want it. I personally use 3 calendars. One for my meetings, colored in yellow. A second one shared with my wife, which is used for family stuff, like family and friends visits at our house, our daughter's meetings, and other events that we have to be both aware of. This one is pink. A third one called time block that I use for blocking my time. obviously. This one is gray. I set up my calendar reminders like that. A reminder 45 minutes and then 10 minutes before a meeting in the yellow meeting calendar. This time gives me the possibility to arrive on time even at a meeting that is at the other end of the city. I set no reminders for the pink family calendar. If I need to be reminded of an event in this calendar, I invite my yellow calendar to the event as a participant. I set no reminders in the gray time block calendar, since it's just to estimate the time I will spend working on some tasks. Which calendar applications are the best? I prefer to use Google Calendar on desktop, since its location search is the best in class, and much better than Apple Calendar actually. Google Calendar is free. It is by Google, so it's unlikely it will be closed down, sold, or otherwise disappear from the digital space. So, it is future-proof. It's accessible on all the operating systems, both desktop and mobile. On mobile, I use what is installed natively on the device, so if I use an Android smartphone, it will be Google Calendar. On iOS, I use Apple Calendar, which pulls the events from my Google account. I found that the native system calendars are always the best at synchronizing events and are the most reliable in the long run. The Outlook calendar you probably use at work is also usable, although probably its search for locations and addresses is very bad, which is a bummer since it's a very helpful function. What not to put on the calendar? Well, no shopping items, no tasks, no notes. The second bucket is a list of tasks, called also a task list or a to-do list. A project manager or a task list. How to use a task list? Actually, do not use a task list, at least not in a way that you think about a task list, which probably is a long list of everything you have to do at any point in time in the future. Task lists are a way to actually not doing the work. More than 41% of tasks written on to-do lists are never done. And it doesn't matter whether you use a paper task list or an electronic one. This makes sense. A task on a task list is just a line, without the interdependencies, without even an estimation of the time that will be needed to complete it. And that is why task lists don't work. Because it's way too easy to note too much tasks on them and then to defer them to the next day. And to the next day, until the task has been deferred so many times that you feel overwhelmed and never do it. Task lists also are an easy way to be extremely overwhelmed, since they grow with time. Always, trust me. A better solution is to work from the calendar. Just block the time in your calendar for the tasks you do on a given day. This way you will not forget to do something, but you will also give those tasks a temporal dimension. You will have to decide how much time you will dedicate to complete the tasks. A project management application, then? This is a good idea if you have to cooperate with people, because you will have a place where you can plan, store, and discuss tasks that will lead to completing the project. But don't use project management apps that do not offer a calendar view, since it will be very, very difficult to time block without a calendar view. Use the applications that are allowing for time blocking in the calendar, which is adding a temporal dimension to the tasks you and your collaborators will execute. Two applications I highly recommend are ClickUp and TickTick. Both have very powerful calendar views that let you plan tasks, recurring tasks, handling exceptions, and completing the tasks right from the calendar view. Both can be used as simple personal task lists and also for team project management. I use ClickUp, and I prefer ClickUp since it has two advantages over TickTick: a very well-designed inbox for notifications and also a neat home dashboard that shows you the tasks for the day, a calendar view for today, and nothing more. It helps me focus on what I have planned for the day without additional distractions, like looking at the tasks for the next week, or without the overwhelm of seeing a never-ending task list for the whole year ahead. So here we are inside of ClickUp. This is an example how a task list or a project manager app could look like, how you can use it. The first thing inside of ClickUp that is useful to do is to turn on the view for recurring tasks. Now it's turned on. And therefore, in the calendar, we will see all the future tasks that we planned, even for recurring ones. What is useful to do also is to create a shortcut at the top favorites bar to the calendar that will show all the tasks that you have planned. Click favorite in the calendar view. And I like to write calendar in capital letters. And here it is. And you can see now all the tasks, even the future ones, are visible on the calendar. Now I'm adding another task. Here you can see I have created two spaces, which are two main areas of responsibility that you probably have in your life, home and work. And inside of each space, you can have lists of tasks. So I have created two for home, personal tasks and family tasks. And the same goes for work. You can create task lists inside the workspace, which will be probably your areas of responsibility at work or your projects. And in the future, if you, I don't know, found a business or maybe start a hobby, you can add another space related to that. As you can see, the two deep work tasks I have created are on the personal tasks list. What I like a lot also about ClickUp is the inbox for notifications, and right now it's empty. And what is also cool is the home view, which is not overwhelming at all, and it gives you the possibility to watch what you have to do in a given day. You can see the calendar at the right and the tasks at the left. And this is basically what you have to do today, nothing more. You can see, of course, an overdue task list and unscheduled task list, but you don't see all the tasks you have prepared for the future. You can also move the tasks around. This one should be moved because it's already too late. Voila. Let's go back to the calendar. You can see the tasks we have moved on the calendar also, but the future repetitions stayed as we planned it initially. If you have information inside of ClickUp that are not tasks, but you still want to store them, you can use the documents view, which allows you basically to create small text documents inside of ClickUp. Those documents are not tasks, but you can comment on them and you can attach documents inside of them and you can write. So this is a good solution to store information. And this doc will be called My Info. And I will store inside my imaginary VAT ID and my imaginary shoe size. It's not true. And you can use also / commands to attach a PDF. And what is cool, you can preview this PDF inside of ClickUp without leaving the application. A third recommendation would be Todoist, since it doesn't have a calendar view, but it integrates with Google Calendar and you can see the tasks from Todoist on your Google Calendar. If you're using Outlook, you're out of luck with Todoist, unfortunately. Also, I have bad experiences with this sync towards the calendar that sometimes made a mess in my calendar, and last but not least, I don't like the feel of the interface. You have to click way more than I like in order to perform basic things like, for example, adding a new task to a list. So use Todoist at your own risk. I recommend ClickUp, followed by tick-tick. Analog or digital? I prefer to use a digital project management app for planning, but then I copy every day the tasks I planned for a given day to a paper notebook I carry with me. The digital application makes it easy to enter recurring tasks, which build systems over time, which build habits over time, which ultimately lead me closer to the life I want to live. The action of copying the tasks to a paper notebook makes me think about the tasks I planned for the day and starts a mental process of preparing myself to working on them. And this is very important. The paper notebook makes it also easier during the day to add short notes to the tasks because a piece of paper is always ready. And it is friendlier to use than any digital application. I also put the paper notebook open on my desk on a special stand so that I glance over at the task list during the day. This simple act helps me limit my procrastination and helps me focus on the tasks I want to complete during the day. This is the stand I'm using. What not to put on your task list? I would avoid making a daily task list too long. Basically, any list longer than 6 tasks will be very difficult to complete if you work in a corporation because you will get distracted, your meeting will take more time than planned, and your boss will add 2 more things at the last moment to this list. I would also use the task list only to note actions that have to be performed. No detailed notes, nor analytical writing here. Eventually, I would attach documents and files that would be useful to complete this task, and that's it. A bad task would be work on the proposal for Michelin. A good task is fill the pricing table in the proposal for Michelin. The more detailed and specific the task, the better. And finally, the last bucket is a place to reflect, develop ideas, make connections between ideas, and nurture relationships. A bidirectional note-taker or a journal. A bidirectional note-taker or a journal. Or both. Let's start by the journal. How to use the journal. Every time you have an idea or you feel the need to take notes, use a journal. Mine is like that. It will allow you to come back to the notes later and develop them, change them, or delete them. It will also create memories that otherwise would be lost. The journal should be analog, on paper, because handwriting on paper makes us think better and we memorize better information when doing so. Writing on a keyboard does not have this same effect. When in a meeting, nobody amongst meeting participants will feel bad if you take notes on paper during the meeting, whereas people could feel offended if you take out your smartphone and take notes, because it will look as if you are messaging someone and not paying attention to the meeting. The same goes with a laptop. You will hide behind the laptop during the meeting and feel inaccessible and not interested in the conversation. The journal is an excellent tool to start projects or develop ideas into something more complex because the friction point of starting is very low. Just open the journal and write. It will also calm you, which is a good thing in today's frenetic times. Yes, writing on paper is calming. Try it. But what is a bidirectional note-taker then? How to use a bidirectional note-taker? A bidirectional note-taker is an application for taking notes that will link in both directions two notes together. If a word in one note is referencing the file name of the other note. If you create a note called Microsoft, you fill it with information about the company, and then you create a second note in which you will write the sentence, "Today, on Monday, December 20th, 2021, I met John Doe from Microsoft," and link the word Microsoft to the Microsoft note A backlink will automatically appear on the Microsoft note, pointing towards this other note that mentions it. This makes it very easy to spot connections between ideas, important areas in your life and your actions that normally you would ignore, or you would have to spend a lot of time analyzing. If I had to define a game-changing concept in technology in the last 10 years, it would precisely be that. Bidirectional notes. Not 4G, not 5G, and not smartphones, but bidirectional notes. If you start using bidirectional notes today, you will build with time. A personal CRM with the contact information and the importance of the relations with the people you interact with. A list of books that you read and movies you watched, linked to the ideas, emotions, and actions they sparkled. A list of your original ideas, linked to feelings, emotions, places, and other things in your life that will give them deeper meaning and help developing those most important to you at a given moment in life. Which bidirectional note takers to use? There is many applications that claim to be bidirectional note takers. Most of them are clumsy, bad, slow, or just pretend to be bidirectional note takers because they want to ride the trend. In reality, there is only 3 real bidirectional note takers worth your time: Rome Research, Obsidian, and Workflowy. They differ by how they are built and what they want to offer to users besides the bidirectional linking feature. Rome Research is the original bidirectional note taker based on a database, hosted in the cloud and paid. This makes it easier to use on multiple devices, and the linking functionality is more detailed. You can, for example, link to paragraphs or apply complex logic to how you visualize your notes. At the time of recording of this course, Rome costs $10 per user per month. The downside is that if one day they cease to exist or are sold to another company, you can have a hard time exporting your notes from them since it's on their servers inside the database. Another downside is that you can either share all of your notes or none. There is no granularity there. You can't share a single note or a bunch of them. Obsidian is based on plain text files that can be opened by any text editor in the world and is free. It's therefore future-proof, but it's unfortunately also constructed in such a way that you can either share all of your notes or none. Not ideal for the 21st century, the century of cooperation. There is a very vast and caring community of people around Obsidian that runs their forum, writes plugins, which are additional functions for Obsidian, and helps new users. This community is, in my opinion, the most valuable part of Obsidian besides the application itself. Some additional services available for Obsidian, like, for example, the publishing from the app to the web, or the mobile encrypted sync, are paid. But the core service is and will always remain free, since the application is free and it works on top of a directory of plain text files you create yourself on the hard drive of your computer. This is how Obsidian looks on your hard drive. Look, you have the folder which we called My Vault, and then we have a text file, .md, because it's short for Markdown, but it is a normal text file. You see, it's normal text. That's it. And it will be always possible to read it, because plain text, this is something that is not changing since the 70s, at least. And so here inside of the ZX CRM folder, we have subfolders, and we have notes for people we just created. Towards the end of this course, there is a separate lesson dedicated to using Obsidian as a bidirectional note taker, where we built together a vault that can serve as a beginning to your journey with taking bidirectional notes. A copy of such an empty vault is also attached to this course as a zip file. You can download it and use it right away in Obsidian. Workflowy is at its core an outliner, which means that it serves to make bulleted, nested notes. Following the success of Rome Research and Obsidian, they implemented the bidirectional linking functionality, and they did it in a unique way that, in my opinion, is far better than Rome and Obsidian. When using Workflowy, you can see the bidirectional links on both the notes and the completed to-do items. This makes it very easy both to manage tasks and not lose the connection to broader ideas and other notes in the bidirectional note taker. This is the outliner and bidirectional note taker that I use and I recommend. Workflowy is paid $5 per user per month at the time of recording this course, and is similarly to Rome Research a database hosted in the cloud. What is unique about it is that on their paid plan you can make daily plain text backups to Dropbox, a cloud storage application. So it's also future-proof, because if one day they cease to exist, you will be able to consult your notes or to import them to another note-taking app. I also love Workflowy for the attitude of their co-founders. Those people are very human, humble, and have a very user-friendly approach to how they develop their app. For instance, they don't use venture capital funding and are not obsessing about growth, but rather want to genuinely create an application that is a joy to use and that is loved by its users. Towards the end of this course, there is a separate lesson dedicated to using Workflowy as a bidirectional note-taker, where we build together a page from scratch that can serve as a beginning to your journey with taking bidirectional notes. A copy of such a starting page is also attached to this course as a zip file you can download and use right away in Workflowy. Now let's attack something that, if not managed well, will make you miserable and will make very difficult executing any work at all. Notifications. Notifications are the cancer of corporate productivity in the 21st century. If you want to know why, basically read A World Without Email by Cal Newport. It's a whole book about it and about how email destroyed productivity in offices around the world. But I think you know exactly why I say that. I see that on your face. Basically, if you don't turn off most notifications and heavily filter the rest of them, you will be unable to perform any work, let alone create something of meaning in your life, because you will be constantly interrupted and you will lose as much as half of your day trying to go back to focus again. Notifications are giving you the feeling that you are busy and therefore productive, but it's a trap and it's an illusion. You're actually doing nothing of value and just managing context switching. You see, no one ever got promoted because they answered email fast, or got to inbox 0, or were always available on Teams, Slack, or other corporate chat. In order to be able to structure your work during the day and have chunks of time in which you will do important work that moves the needle, you have to turn off notifications and start being intentional with how you spend your time at work, instead of being just reactive. It's a painful process because everyone around you will look at you as if you were crazy or from another planet. But that's fine as long as you remember why you do it. To save time, be sane, less anxious, and do meaningful work. You can write those words and put them in front of you on your desk in order to remember. The only notifications you should leave on are those from people that are important to you. So basically, your family, not your boss, and certainly not your colleagues. And family should be able to reach you only when you're not working on something important. When focusing, your phone should be in Do Not Disturb or Focus mode and all the notifications off. Believe me, nothing groundbreaking will happen during the hour or two you will spend like that every day. Your family will be fine. Meetings. Meetings are the cancer. Wait, I made this comparison already. Well, meetings are the diabetes of corporate productivity in the 21st century. Better, meetings are universal and common because it's the only universally accepted format of synchronizing information between groups of people. Hold that thought. Meetings are actually completely useless in most of the cases and are just a waste of time multiplied by the number of people that participate in each meeting. Meetings are the easiest way in which someone superior in a work hierarchy can be sure that other people will pay attention to what is being said. Think of a CEO who makes a public meeting to share the strategy for the coming year. Couldn't he make it in the form of an email? Of course he could. Would he have the feeling that everyone paid attention to him when sending this email? Probably not. You get the idea. The funny part is that you don't have to accept to participate in all the meetings you are invited to. A very good filter is to ask, what is the goal and the agenda of this meeting? This one question will filter out 80% of the non-prepared meetings made by people who just want to be sure that you will pay attention to what they say. Even if the meeting has an agenda, you can still decline the invitation if you feel that your contribution is not needed at this meeting, and it can be done in an asynchronous way, like by sending an email or giving a document to someone who will attend the meeting. If you are organizing a meeting and you are sure that it can't be done more efficiently asynchronously via email, please start the meeting by letting everyone read the agenda and the necessary documents in silence before the discussion begins. It makes a huge difference in the quality of the discussions and the quality of the decisions that will be made. If you don't do it, the majority of people will come unprepared and will just pretend that they know what the discussion is about. You might think now that I'm crazy, and that is fine, but believe me, in my 20 years of corporate experience, no one ever got fired for not participating to a meeting. People will gossip behind your back that you never come to meetings, but you will never get fired for that. Especially if in parallel you solve critical business problems and are helpful to your colleagues and coworkers. Those who like to gossip will gossip, but the key people that decide about you in the firm will know that you bring value. Decisions and fatigue. It is important to make decisions. It is also very rare in companies that people make decisions. Strange, right? Most of the time people are afraid of decisions because with the decisions comes responsibility for this decision and its outcome. Tada! Now you know why in large companies everybody fears making decisions. You can easily distinguish yourself from others by just making decisions. Don't say you'll think about it. Don't say you will consider something. Do or do not. There is no try, as Yoda said. You don't have to receive official authorization from the management to make decisions. The longer you work in a company, the more people will come to you with decisions they don't want to make. It's your opportunity to make their life easier and just decide. That way, an assistant can have more influence on how the company operates than an executive, just by making decisions, or by pushing people who have the necessary authorizations to make them. Simultaneously pay close attention to the number of decisions you make in a day, because the more you will make, the lesser quality they will be, and you will less and less want to actually make them as the day progresses. It's called decision fatigue. You can fight decision fatigue by reducing the number of decisions you make in a given day. For example, wear every day the same clothes, eat the same dish for breakfast, take the same route to work. The less small decisions you will make in your day-to-day life, the more decision energy you will have for the impactful decisions at work. Another thing you can do is automating daily decisions. You can plan in advance what will be the main theme of every workday of the week and therefore not make those decisions as the week progresses, because they will be already made in advance. This is how Jack Dorsey operates. It's important to start the day by the most difficult and dreaded decisions you have to make, because at the beginning of your day, you have the most decision energy. So, most important decisions first thing in the morning. How to prioritize and know what is important? Well, start by the thing that is the most long-term and that seems the most frightening to you. Long-term because it's easy to make short-term rewarding stuff like replying to email, but very difficult to work consistently on long-term things. If you start by the most long-term thing, you will have the rest of the day for less impactful stuff anyway. If you start by the less impactful stuff, the long-term things will be too overwhelming later in the day. And why most frightening? Well, because fear equals importance, responsibility, and skin in the game. If something is frightening, it means it's worth doing. Now let's see how to build processes in order to be able to make difficult things consistently and therefore achieve long-term goals. Building processes. Planning the day. Planning is as important as prioritizing. If you don't plan your day, someone else will. Paraphrasing Greg McKeown, it is best to plan the day before and then to review this plan first thing in the morning. Why? Because the day before you will probably be overly optimistic about both the quantity and the priority order of the things you imagine you will do in a given day. Do you remember my advice to start by the most long-term and frightening thing? The day before, you will judge as frightening another task than in the morning. Your morning feeling is usually right. I would avoid planning the week ahead. I mean, it's okay to note what you want to do and to achieve in a given week, but don't be overly specific as far as what will get done on each day of the week. Because, life happens. Those plans will probably be heavily modified anyways. Don't plan more than 6 tasks for a given day. You will rarely be able to do more in a day than 6 things. It's been proven by Ivy Lee, a consultant to Charles Schwab, one of the richest men in the world at the beginning of the 20th century. At the end of the day, move any unfinished tasks to a new list of 6 tasks for the following day. This method will allow you to avoid over-planning and simultaneously will inevitably guide you towards your goals, because the unfinished tasks go automatically to the next day, so they will be done sooner or later. What about weekly reviews? Personally, I don't like weekly reviews because it's just time spent on reflecting on what already was done and that you have very little influence over at the moment of the reflection. I prefer reading my journal entries from the week and reflect about that, because my journal entries focus much more on me and my feelings and my observations. And this is very important in order to remain connected to how we see our day-to-day work and whether what we do serves us or not. I recommend weekly silent walks in the forest in order to be alone and let your thoughts about the week that has passed slowly and naturally unfold. So, no weekly reviews, but a weekly walk in the forest. Sounds good? Habits and routines. If you want to achieve a long-term goal, plan as many repeating tasks leading you to this goal as you can on a weekly and monthly basis, even if each task takes just 5 minutes. 5 minutes spent consistently every day on something will very fast compound, like in compound interest, and bring you much closer to your long-term goal than big chunks of time that are not repeating. Don't try to develop more than one routine or habit at a time, because you risk being discouraged very fast. Instead, plan your routines and habits as following one another and forming a path towards who you want to be in the future. For example, if your goal is to be more confident at work, start by running for 30 minutes every day for 2 months, because it will calm you. Then add reading for 15 minutes every day for 2 additional months about a specific skill that you think you need to develop in order to feel more professional and skillful. Then add a Toastmasters club meeting every week for 2 months in order to train yourself in public speaking, or start a YouTube vlog to feel more confident in front of the camera. If you do that, you will feel more confident at work after the first day of running. And that confidence will grow with time, and the additional habits you will add after 6 months, you won't recognize yourself. Automating and batching. Your work will be very sad and uninteresting if you don't automate what is repetitive and boring. You can automate by either using technology, services like Zapier or If This Then That let you connect applications that are not officially integrated, which means connected together. You can do it also by attaching some tasks to other repetitive behaviors that already exist in your life, like making sales calls during your commute to work, or answering email when you're waiting for your video to render or your code to compile, or by delegating the tasks. What can't be automated can surely be batched. This means that you will execute similar tasks together, one by one. By batching, you avoid switching contexts and losing focus. Now let's talk about communication. Communication. Interpersonal. Face-to-face. One-on-one physical communication is the richest form of communication that exists. Period. Besides words, you have also access to gestures, emotions painted on the face of the person with whom you talk, the tone of her voice, the inflections, and all the body language that goes in parallel with the talking. In-person communication is always the most efficient, the less prone to misunderstandings, and the fastest. So, if you communicate in writing, like by email or chat, and you feel that the communication is not efficient and that you lose a lot of time before you understand each other, always switch to in-person communication or to the telephone. Everything will go much faster from there. Telephone. Talking on the phone is the second best option. Yes, phone, not video. Let me explain. You will still have a lot more of non-verbal cues in the communication, and it will not be as intrusive as a video call. Side note, we have far too much video calls lately, especially in companies and corporations, because unproductive meetings were replaced by equally unproductive video calls. People are accustomed to talking on the phone since a long time, and, paradoxically, are less prone to acting and to conceal their emotions on the phone than during a video call. If written communication does not work and you can't talk in person, a phone call is the best option. If you need to negotiate but can't meet in person, a phone call is also the best option. Video calls. After the pandemic, we all have too many video calls. A lot of them are, similarly to meetings, a way to guarantee that you will pay attention for a certain amount of time to the person that organized the video call. Feel free to decline attending the video calls that you judge unnecessary, or if you feel that you can contribute more effectively to the project using email or via a written document. Video calls don't have the benefits of in-person discussions or phone calls, since it's much more difficult to make a video call with a decent sound quality, and also people tend to act and pretend during video calls what they don't do during phone calls, since everybody is accustomed to phone calls since a long time and video is a fairly new technology. So, video is a waste of time, similar to meetings. Email. There's books written about email. Basically, it's the thing that people hate the most just after the meetings. The reason for this hatred is that most of the people receive far too many emails, between 100 and 200 a day. It's crazy. So, how to make sense of using email and not get stressed? Unsubscribe. If you receive too much email, a lot of what you receive are probably ads, newsletters, and status emails. Unsubscribe for all the newsletters using the unsubscribe link at the bottom of each newsletter. Leave at most 3 weekly newsletters in accordance with your interests. Do it periodically, since you will surely be added to new newsletters automatically, or by registering somewhere, or because you bought something online. It should be a part of your online hygiene. Turn off email notifications for project management software, social media, and corporate chats. You don't need additional notifications by email besides the push notification or the desktop notification you receive anyway. Status emails that you don't need, like the number of new records added to the CRM, or some automated email about the ping in milliseconds to the corporate website, should be turned off. The rest routed via a rule inside of your email application to a subfolder where you will be able to consult them if the need arises. All those activities will decrease the number of the emails you receive by 90%. Yep. The rest can be efficiently processed daily. Inbox zero. Having just 10% of the usual email to process daily, try to achieve each day inbox zero. Why? Because an empty inbox will stress you way less than one with 2,534 emails all the time. Also because you will notice more easily a new email in an empty inbox than in a full one. Therefore, you will not forget about dealing with emails. Achieve inbox zero by deciding right away what you will do with each email. If it takes no more than 2 minutes, do it right away. Like answer how many employees we have at the company, or where do you want to go for lunch today. If it takes more time, copy the link to this email, if the email application you use allows it, and paste it into your task list so that you can schedule when to work on it. Archive the email in your email app so that it disappears from your inbox. It now lives inside of your task list. Another strategy would be to star the emails you want to deal with later, and then schedule time in your calendar daily to deal with those starred emails. Either way, an email that is put inside of your task list or starred should be archived and should disappear from your inbox. It's now part of a system that you trust and that will make you deal with it later. If the email reached you in error and should have been sent to someone else, or it can be done by one of your team members, delegate it and archive it immediately. A clever email app. A good idea is to use a clever email app that makes it easy to deal with email. This task is very easy to achieve if the company you work for is running on Google Workspace or Office 365. Slightly more difficult if it's on-premise Microsoft Exchange, like in many law and consulting firms. A clever email app is an app that makes it possible to share emails between coworkers without sharing the whole email account. Makes it possible to cooperate when writing replies to emails. Makes it possible to delegate an email response without sharing the whole email account. Such a clever app that I like a lot is called Front. You can discuss about emails next to those emails without the client ever seeing it. You can collaboratively edit a response and you can share emails by just starting a chat next to an email without sharing the whole email account and without asking corporate IT for that. Front is paid, but it's worth it. A slightly less user-friendly because of a more cluttered interface, but still clever email app is called Missive. If you need a free clever email app, look into Spark by a company called Riddle. It's a free email client for Mac OS, iOS and Android. A Windows version will also be available soon. Spark allows for sharing emails without sharing the whole email account, creating links to emails in order to store them in your bidirectional note-taker or project management app, redacting collaborative email responses to incoming emails, snoozing emails for later, using email templates, using quick responses like thank you or call me. Spark is the email client I use. Replace internal emails by phone calls or chats. A good idea is to use the inbox only for external emails and the emails from your management. Therefore, all the internal communication should either be face-to-face, phone calls, or chat, like Microsoft Teams or Slack. That way you will not have your inbox littered by emails that say OK or call me when you have some time, and by their signatures and compliance disclaimers that are longer than the message itself. Check email in batches. In order not to spend half your workday answering emails, batch email checking. Set 2 or 3 time slots during the day when you check email, inform your boss and your colleagues of that, and then close your email client between those times in order to actually work. If your boss protests this idea, it means that he values more your reactivity than what is actually written in your employment contract. And it's a good idea to think whether you still want to work for this boss or not. Usually bosses that value more your reactivity than your professional abilities are also overly manipulative, micromanaging, and don't trust their teams. How I batch emails? I check email at 7 a.m., at noon, and at 5 p.m. That way, I am fairly reactive, but at the same time, I have 2 big chunks of my day, before noon and in the afternoon, to work with focus, intention, and following the priorities I set on my task list. If something urgent happens, it will usually reach me via a phone call and not via email. Sometimes less efficient coworkers send me emails and are surprised that I have not responded right away. But it's their problem. If it was urgent, they should have called. And if it's not urgent, well, they can wait 4 hours for an answer, right? 4 hours is still a much better email reactivity score than a few days, don't you think? Chat. Chat is excellent to rapidly delegate work or ask for a quick status update. Chat is awful for more complex information transfer. For that, an in-person talk or a phone call will always be better. An email is always better than a meeting. A chat is always better than an email. An in-person talk or phone call will always be better than a chat. Still, chats are useful to ask a group of people rapidly a question and to separate the internal communication from the client and external communication we talked about earlier in this course. If you work on complex matters, batch checking chat clients in the same way that I suggest batching checking email. If you don't do it, you will never do meaningful work at work because you will be constantly distracted by chats. If you see friction in your team about how you use the chat, talk with the team members, see what are the expectations and see how you can accommodate them without sacrificing the time you need to focus at work. Ultimately, you can ask your boss whether you will be promoted for checking email and chat clients or for the professional goals you both agreed setting for you. This question always works. Good bosses will answer professional goals. Bad bosses will say both, and I'd recommend looking for a better job if you work for a bad boss. Written communication. This is the most formal communication and should be used to deliver results to clients or tell the story of a project to the management. Please be aware that if it's not well structured and too long, nobody will read it. Neither the client nor the management. What means well structured? You write at the beginning what is the purpose of this document and where it will lead the recipients. Then you describe the steps using which they will be taken to the destination. Then you briefly expand every step using short, actionable sentences and citing objective evidence as often as possible. Then you conclude by stating where all of this has led you, and you ask the recipients for specific actions that should follow. If it's a client document, you can mention at the end that you are grateful for the opportunity to work on this project, and you can try to upsell more of the services of your company, with the approval of your management, of course. When using all of those methods of communication in the way I described, you will very fast gain a reputation of a very good communicator. What can lead you as far as to be offered speaking gigs at company gatherings? Now, let's attack the last chapter of this course, which is the most rewarding of them all: making sense of all the information you encounter daily at work. Making sense. Mindful productivity. The first habit that it's worth building in order to make sense of all the information that arrives your way is to be mindfully productive. Being mindfully productive means that you plan in accordance with how you feel about what you plan. You are mindful while being productive. Mindfulness and productivity may sound contrary one to the other, but really they are not. Being mindful means interrupting the autopilot mode in which we often work, taking the time to appreciate the little things and observing how you feel. Mindful productivity is about acknowledging and accepting your feelings while engaged in work. Besides helping with focus, mindful productivity also helps notice signs of anxiety and stress at work earlier and do something about them before it's too late and it's overwhelming. The following are the 5 elements that help adding mindfulness to productivity. Number 1, time to think. Start by blocking some time weekly on your calendar to think. It's both very easy. You just choose a day and draw a rectangle on your calendar, but at the same time it's very difficult to achieve since inevitably there will be events that will occur every week that will put you in a situation where you will be tempted to use this block of time for something else. The goal is to be ruthless in using this chunk of time and never replace it with anything else. Because if you don't find the time to think, you will never make sense of all the information you gather. Period. Number 2, work in a linear way. Humans are very poor multitaskers. Studies show that when our brain is constantly switching gears to bounce back and forth between different tasks, especially when those tasks are complex and require active attention, we become less efficient and more likely to make a mistake. That's why I recommend choosing the 6 tasks on which you will work during the day, prioritize them, and then work linearly, one task after the other, from the most long-term, dreadful, and complex one to the most easy and fun. Don't try to multitask when working on your task list. You can, of course, batch phone calls while commuting or make notes in your journal while waiting for your lunch at a restaurant, but that's pretty much the limit of multitasking for a human being. There's studies about that. Here. And trust me, it's science. Number 3. Be curious and question everything. Being mindful with your productivity means also being curious. Never be afraid of asking, why are we doing it this way? What's the goal in planning it like that? What do we want to achieve by doing it? My personal experience shows that normal, balanced, respectful bosses and colleagues would have no problem with answering those questions. On the contrary, mobbers, bullies, people with personal problems, and disrespectful people would either not respond or react aggressively to those questions. This is a clear indication for you that maybe this team or this company are not for you. Maybe you don't want to work with mobbers, disrespectful people, and people with unsolved personal problems. I would for sure avoid such places at any cost, since it will inevitably have a toll on your personal well-being and your life in general. Not only your work life, but also the time you spend alone and your family life. It's not worth it. Number 4. Shape your environment. Your productivity will not last very long if you work in conditions that are distracting, suboptimal, or otherwise wrong. You decide when and how you work. The companies have stopped imagining that a long time ago. You're on your own. If the place you have to work at work is not optimal to get things done, change it. Yes, you can. Remember, nobody ever was fired for changing where they work. They all got fired for attitude. If you have a problem-solving, business-minded and helpful attitude at work, you can change the place where you work by either asking your boss or by just finding a place where you can perform better. If you're being constantly distracted at your desk, book a meeting room and work there. If you can't do any meaningful work at the office, but your company has flexible work arrangements, start working a few days from home in order to get the complex stuff done easier away from the office. If you want clarity of mind, make some order on your desk. You will gain focus by performing this task and then by looking at a desk in order. If you're being distracted by your phone, leave it in your backpack, turned off. For important, complex, analytical or creative work, log off from email and chats. Number 5. Flow. Observe when you get so involved in your work that you forget about the passing time. Is it in the morning or in the evening? Before a meeting or after it? Those moments when you lose the grasp of time are moments when you work in the flow state, as described by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi in Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience book. In order to achieve easily flow, you have to choose activities that are not too easy but also not too difficult. Just slightly above your level of comfort in a given activity. When in the flow state, your work will progress faster and you will grow personally by gaining new skills. Now, let's add some technology to this mix, so that making sense of all the information we gather actually is easier with time. a database of notes. I recommend using Workflowy for bidirectional note-taking, even if it's paid, because the attitude of the owners and the attention to detail with which they develop the application is second to none. Workflowy is also very capable for making sense of information, collaboration with the team, with contractors maybe, information sharing, etc., etc. And Workflowy is future-proof. Another good choice is Obsidian, because at its core it's free, private and future-proof also. Nobody will fire you for using Workflowy or Obsidian, since it does not break any corporate rules. It's just text files used by a well-protected, from a security standpoint, application. Since it's a tool, you have to configure it and prepare in order to use it efficiently. Let's configure Obsidian together. Then we will also configure Workflowy from scratch. You can also use the Obsidian Vault attached to this course or the Workflowy page to start your bidirectional notes if you don't want to learn how to create them and want just to jump straight into note-taking. What is a vault? A vault is a folder with subfolders and text files inside of those subfolders. I recommend using the following structure of subfolders and files: family, life goals, notes, and then inside the folder with notes, articles, books, links, templates, and inside the templates folder, a daily outline, work, ZX CRM, the ZX is for sorting, and inside of this ZX CRM folder, companies and things, events, files, ideas, people, Z past, and then a new folder, ZZ 2022, and with subsequent years, of course. And at the very end, the file with today's note. If you want to install the attached ready-made empty vault, you need to download the zip file, unzip it somewhere, and copy the directory called My Vault somewhere on the hard disk of your computer. How to install Obsidian? Go to https://obsidian.md and download the application. Here is the screen. There's a huge amount of core plugins, community plugins, which means plugins created by the wonderful community of users of Obsidian, and themes, which are styles and colors used in your notes. I recommend using the following. As core plugins, the File Explorer, Search, Quick Switcher, Graph View, Backlinks, Tag Pane, Page Preview, Daily Notes, Templates, Note Composer, Command Palette, /commands, Starred, Open in Default App, Workspaces, File Recovery, Publish if you want to use Obsidian as your website or blog, but this is a paid service, $10 per month at the time of recording this course. Sync if you want to use Obsidian on desktop and mobile and have it synchronized in a secure encrypted way, which also is a paid service, $10 per month at the time of this recording. And then the community plugins. Calendar, natural language dates, outliner, Zoom. And finally the theme, so how your notes will look like. Things by Colin Eckert. This theme is very elegant, works very well both with the calendar outliner and Zoom community plugins, and is generating very clean-looking, elegant PDF export files that require no additional fiddling with them to make them both readable and professional-looking. Now let's create and configure a vault together. So we are now inside of Obsidian and we're gonna create a vault from scratch, and we're going also to install all the plugins you will need to function correctly and to have such a beautiful instance of Obsidian. Let's go. First thing to do is to open another vault, which will give you the possibility to create a vault actually. Click. And here you can create new vault. vault name. Let's choose a location for this vault, because a vault it's a folder with subfolders inside and with files inside of those subfolders. Let's create. Here I suggest turning on live preview because it works very, very nicely. And as you can see right now, the vault is totally empty. Let's start by creating a structure for this vault, which is the subfolders inside of the vault. Here you can see you can create new nodes, so it would be new documents inside of your vault. And here you can create new folders. So let's make folders. Family. Life goals. Notes. And inside of the notes subfolder, let's create some notes. Articles, books, and links. And let's put those files inside of the notes folder. Drag and drop. 1, 2, 3. Now if we collapse, it's inside. Let's progress further with the folder creation. Templates. Here we have a note called daily outline. We're gonna use it as a template for our daily notes later on. Work. ZX CRM, which will be your database of contacts. So here you have it. It's all our vault structure. Now let's install the core and community plugins. Go into settings here. And in the menu on the left, choose core plugins. And here, turn on the tag pane. It will serve you. Turn on daily notes. Turn on templates. Turn on / commands. Turn on start. You can turn off the Markdown format importer if you don't import Markdown. You can turn off word count. It doesn't matter. Turn on workspaces. And consider buying the services Publish and Sync. If you want to treat your Obsidian as a web page, you can buy the Publish service. It will allow you to publish using Obsidian, and the Sync will allow you basically to use Obsidian on mobile and have an encrypted sync between your desktop and your mobile. Now let's see the community plugins here at the left. And in order to turn on the community plugins, you have to turn off safe mode. Yes, turn off. And then click Browse. And from here we choose Calendar, Install, and Enable. Natural language date. Install. And enable. This will give you the possibility to write tomorrow, next week, etc. And it will be transformed into dates. Let's search for the outliner. Install. And enable. And the last one, called Zoom. Install and enable. Now let's choose a theme, so how Obsidian will look. And then let's configure the community plugins we just installed. You can find the themes in Appearance. I prefer Light. And here we can manage themes. And choose the one which is called Things by Colin Eckert. Use it. Update it. And last but not least, let's configure the community plugins. You can find the plugin options here in the menu on the left. Let's configure the calendar. You can choose here which day will be the first day of the week. Whether you want to see week numbers, I like it. Then command palette, you don't need to configure it. Daily notes. Leave it like that because it's a good date format. New file location. Template file location. If you want to use a template, choose templates daily outline, what we created when we configured the vault. Natural language dates, it's okay like that. Outliner is okay from the get-go. Template location, choose templates. And that's the end. Your Obsidian is configured. And now click here to expand the pane on the right. Drag it to have some more space. And here you can see you have a tag pane and the calendar. And I suggest taking the backlinks and dragging them under the calendar here in order to have the calendar always visible and the backlinks at the bottom. And this is the workspace that works best in Obsidian. And of course, if you don't want to do everything manually, you can download the ready-made empty vault I have attached to this course. It's a zip file. You have to just unpack it somewhere and then open it from Obsidian, showing where the vault is located. That's it. How to make notes. Use daily notes, which have 3 main sections under the headings. 1. Observations. 2. Communication. And 3. Check. First, let's create the actual daily template, daily outline we will be using in our daily notes. So, as I said, it should contain observations, communication, and check. And I like to delimitate what is written in those sections. So let's do this. I like to add icons also and highlighting because it will delimitate what is in those notes. This is our template. It's here. And now look what will happen if we create a daily note by clicking on today. Ta-da! It's created
based on the template.
Create a personal database of contacts and interactions with people by noting every person you meet and every interaction at work that you have with people under the communication heading in your daily note. Write one phrase per interaction. Link the names, the companies, and the ideas that are mentioned. For example, a note. I talked with John Doe about the marketing newsletter project, and we agreed to use ConvertKit to prepare it. Open the John Doe note and note there the email, phone, role, and company in which John works. This will serve you later. With time, use the marketing newsletter and project pages to gain a bird's eye view on all the notes related to marketing newsletters and all the notes related to projects that you gathered inside of Obsidian. In other words, you can rapidly visualize all the projects that you are participating in, leading, and have completed. The same goes with other concepts and ideas. Newly created pages in Obsidian appear in the File Explorer menu on the left. In order not to have a mess there, move all the text files into appropriate subfolders inside the ZX CRM folder. All the old daily notes with names that are dates in the year, month, day format to ZZ 2022 or ZZ year that you will create in the following years, and leave just the daily note for today to be able to rapidly access it. You can also access it on the calendar add-on we installed.
Let's see how to create a new note and how to create backlinks between notes. So we are here on today's note in the calendar. It's the 6th of February 2022. We have our daily note, which was created automatically from our template. And so let's use the example of John Doe I recently told you. So in communication, let's write. And when we want to link somewhere, we use the double brackets like that. And if the color of the text is a pale blue, it means that the note does not exist yet inside of your Obsidian, which is okay. We will create it right away. As you can see, I'm making backlinks. I'm defining any potential idea or any potential thing that I would like to reference in the future. So now let's create the John Doe note. If you want to create the note, you click Command on Mac or Control on Windows and click the note that was not created. And here it is. It's our new John Doe note. And so let's pretend John Doe is a real person. He's got an email. He's got a phone. He probably works somewhere. You can write it all here. This is an example note about John Doe. And as you can see here on the right, in the backlinks pane, we are seeing a backlink. Basically, John Doe is mentioned in the daily note, 6th of February. I talked with John Doe, etc. If we click here, it will open where John Doe is mentioned. And it's even highlighted. And so if John Doe would be mentioned in a number of notes, all those notes would be visible here. This is the first thing. The second thing we should do probably is to make some order, because we want to have only here the daily notes and precisely the daily note for today. So John Doe should be moved somewhere into our ZX CRM, so our database of contacts. And it's a person, so let's move it to the people folder. Drag and drop. up, here it is. And with time, you will have a list of people you encountered or you follow online, and it will grow. And let's go back to our daily note. Which notes we have here? We should create marketing newsletter. This is a thing. Up. And project. This is also a thing. And ConvertKit. This is, you can add an address. And this is a thing, no, a company. Up. So we made some order. And we can see also that we have a very basic graph. Open graph view. And we can see that articles, links, daily outline, those notes are not connected, but John Doe ConvertKit, marketing newsletter and projects all are connected to the daily note of 6th of February 2022.
In the daily note still, note your feelings and reflections under the observations heading. Like, for example, I felt attacked when John Doe told me that I was out of my mind for proposing to start a company podcast. It takes just a couple of seconds to write such a sentence. It's fast. It will allow you with time to identify what you love about your job and what you hate about it. And it will also let you make better personal decisions as far as your career goes. Otherwise, you will just forget a lot of those interactions. Other times, you will rationalize a lot of what happens, and you won't have the necessary big picture view when the time to decide will come. Under the check heading, ideally in the daily note template, mark the evening checks on your day that you want to follow, like whether you exercised or not, whether you ate healthy or not, whether you created something or not. Those checks should be in accordance with your goals and values. My checks are running, eating low carb, intermittent fasting, having family time every day, working every day on my own products. Feel free to copy them if you feel inspired.
Let's add the daily checks to the Obsidian template. Click Templates, Daily Outline, and then let's add those checks. And now, because we want them to be checks, so let's click Command and Enter, or Control and Enter in Windows, in order to have it as checks. And we can check off at the end of each day our daily checks.
Every time you have an email to send or a report to prepare, start working on it under the communication heading of the daily note. I am prefacing every email with the hashtag email tag, every report with the appropriate tag, and so on. With time, you will gather a chronology of communications sent to various people connected to their names, companies, and ideas mentioned in the subject and in the body of the emails. Those drafts will also be much more easily searchable and transferable between companies, departments, and in general will follow you along in your career. How to use Obsidian notes to make sense of your knowledge. At the beginning, you will just have to create new notes and consistently use the rules described in the previous lessons of this course. With time, your network of notes will expand and create a graph. This is an example of a graph.
Let's see how a very well nurtured graph can look like in Obsidian. So in order to launch the graph, open Graph View at the left. And this is a graph of mine, like an Earth, a planet. So you can see that there's some dots that are bigger than others. Helena, it's my daughter. HWS articles. This is my blog. So you can see which things in your life are important. And this can be very difficult if you don't have a bidirectional note application, because you would have to read and consult a lot of paper notebooks to draw those conclusions. Organization, this is something that is important in my life. Health, also. And this is how my graph was growing over time.
Thanks to the graph, you will be able to visualize connections between people, concepts, ideas, and see the most important areas of your work and life. This kind of high-level view is almost impossible to achieve without a bidirectional note-taker application. And it's very time-consuming if you tried reviewing paper notes to achieve the same result. Those notes, easy to make on daily basis and quite satisfying to create, thanks to the rapidity and the beauty of Obsidian, will gain value with time. And since the tool itself and the format of the notes is future-proof, you can calmly invest your time in creating them, knowing that it will be worth it. Let's create a workflowy page together. A workflowy page is similar to an Obsidian vault. It's the core of your note-taking process. The difference is that whereas an Obsidian vault is composed from various text files inside of folders, a workflowy page is a single text file. In many ways, this is simpler as you have all the high-level information if you look at the whole page, but you can also zoom in as far as you want to see a detailed view of an idea, a problem, or a part of a project you are managing.
So here is Workflowy. Workflowy looks for the first time like you can see here. And we're gonna create a new document inside of Workflowy from scratch. And the new document will serve you later on as a canvas for entering notes and building your database of notes and your personal CRM also. So as you can see, we can click and expand bullets. And you can also expand everything and have a bird's eye view on your document. And this is basically the purpose of this first document they serve you. But right now, let's delete it and start from a blank page. This is our first bullet inside of Workflowy. And basically, we're gonna type every major heading we will use later on. Each time we will have the need to make subheadings, just press Tab and you will be able to make subheadings. So let's go. So I'm starting by journal and notes because there is a difference between note-taking and journaling. Basically, notes are things that you will access based on your needs, and it's not related to a date. And a journal is closely related to a date. That is why I have created two bullets separately for journal and notes. The CRM basically is your database of people, of contacts to people, their roles, the companies you will encounter in your life and in your work, places, meetings, things, roles, ideas. So this is just a sorting list. Family is, of course, for family. Home is basically to have contacts for important contractors for your home and things and appliances you use inside of your home. So basically, the dishwasher will be under things and appliances. Finance is for money, insurance, tax, recipes, and links. And that's it. And in order to have a document that is really readable with time, because it will grow with information underneath those bullets, I like to add emojis at the beginning of each bullet. And I take them either from the emoji keyboard on Mac or from the website Emojipedia. And you can copy and paste emojis from there. And if it's still not readable enough, I would suggest using bold or highlights in order to separate sections you will access on daily basis or very often. And voila, this is our structure. Now let's make it bold and maybe add some highlights. This will be yellow. This will be blue. And so on. And it's ready.
And of course, if you don't want to configure everything by hand as we did it right now, you can download the ready-made page for Workflowy I have prepared for you and just import it into Workflowy and start using it right away. Cool?
So, how to use Workflowy on a daily basis? Well, you have two choices. One is to have also the tasks inside of Workflowy, and this is not what I will be showing right now because, as I said, I would prefer to teach you that you should have an external task management app, a task list that allows for time blocking. So there's no tasks here, but I can tell you how I would suggest to use Workflowy daily in order to make sense of your information and of the things that happen to you in your life and the people you meet. So basically, for example, if you need to have something that you will be accessing often in the form of a note. I have interview questions, for example, like that. Go inside of notes by clicking the bullet here. And as you can see, it automatically focused on just this bullet and nothing else. And here again, I can zoom in. So those are the things you can store inside of notes. It can be notes related to a project or something you will access often. But the other thing I would suggest you do is to journal inside of Workflowy. And it's pretty easy to do because Workflowy is able to recognize dates. And so if I write today, it offers me automatically today's date. And if I hit tab, it will enter this date. And then underneath, I can note things that happened today. And as you can see, if I write double brackets in order to link something, Workflowy offers me to create such a page. The page wife does not exist in this document. And so I can create a new wife page inside of notes or elsewhere. And I will want to create it elsewhere. I want it to be inside of CRM people. And so here it is. I created a wife page inside of CRM people. And as you can see, it's referenced back by a backlink. And you can see on the wife page that I journaled about my wife on Sunday, March 27th. So this is how I like to journal. And there is another use of Workflowy that is very cool. Is precisely to use this CRM. So basically, I have created wife under people, and you can fill it out. So you can enter the details of your wife, etc. And also, if you met someone, for example, you are inside of the journal, and there was a meeting. So I want to have project management inside of CRM things. And this is what I will create right now by hitting enter. So as you can see, I have created a very simple phrase describing my meeting with John Doe, and I linked John Doe, project management and life hacks, which are ideas that will probably be important in my life in the future. And so I want to have a trace of when I speak about project management, with whom, which books I read related to project management, and the same goes for life hacks. And with time, you will have actually a very well organized CRM with contacts to people, with their roles, with the ideas related to those people. You can also make similar notes about books you read, articles you encounter online, etc. So you are building a knowledge base with time, which is very, very good. Here, I'd like to show you how to make sense of all the information you will gather inside of Workflowy, because it's very, very powerful, and it's a little bit different than Obsidian or ROM Research or other bidirectional note takers, and pretty unique. And so let's imagine that you have some notes inside of your Workflowy. For example, one of your journal entries was related to John Doe. So basically I have entered a phrase that later on I think that I will mark as completed, because it's a subject that is done. John Doe has become a great vice president. Let's move on. And so I can make command enter and complete it. And then as you can see, I can show completed or hide completed inside of my Workflowy. And when you have a lot of completed items, it makes sense to hide them, because it's cleaner like that. And so let's imagine that a year from now, I am making a review of my notes about people, because I will meet with them and I want to have some conversation about subjects that are important. And so if I go to the John Doe page, I can see 2 backlinks, but if I click the little triangle, I'm seeing just one. And the reason is the second one is hidden because it is completed. And this is the only difference between Obsidian and Workflowy, because ROM Obsidian will not show you completed items. So you will either have to look for everything, or you will have incomplete information. Whereas in those backlinks here inside of Workflowy, you can toggle. Completed are shown or are hidden. And this makes a lot of sense if you, for example, store tasks inside of Workflowy, or if there are subjects that are relevant and then become obsolete, but there are some processes in which you want to have access to those things that became obsolete and remember situations related to them. So this is how you can make sense of information gathered inside of Workflowy, and this is very, very powerful with time. Mainly because with time you will gather lots of small points of reference that you will want to visualize at some points in time, at some decision moments, and Workflowy is excellent just for that. Another very good function of Workflowy is its ability to share information between people. And unlike Obsidian and unlike ROM Research, where you can only share the entirety of the vault, the entirety of the database, inside of Workflowy you can decide which bullet you will want to share and with whom. It can be different persons. Each of them, of course, should have a Workflowy account, but they will receive an invitation when you share information with them. But you can decide which bullet point will be shared with whom, and it can be very, very granular, and it's awesome. With my wife, for example, we are sharing the stuff related to our family, to our side business, but also one of the 3 shopping lists, the one which we have to manage together. And so you can configure it
as you like, and the same goes for working with teams or with contractors. It's very, very comfortable and very well thought out. Boredom and doing nothing, also called digital minimalism. There's two books that are crucial to understanding how being bored in today's world can lead to breakthroughs in your professional life. One is Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. The other is Bored and Brilliant by Manoush Zomorodi. Conscious limiting of technology in our lives actually limits distractions and lowers base dopamine levels we experience during our days, which leads to more motivation and willingfulness to attack difficult tasks in the long run. Boredom is a crucial tool for making our lives happier, more productive, and more creative, since without boredom, we will never find the internal resources to create new things and direct our interest towards new ideas. If we never disconnect from the incoming information, advertisements, social media posts, we will never have the mental bandwidth to connect the dots related to our own feelings and experiences. We will also never have groundbreaking ideas because those ideas are precisely built upon our unique experiences and feelings. So don't be afraid to stare blankly into the window when traveling by train or taking a taxi somewhere in your city. It's precisely then that your mind will process the experiences and new knowledge, and this will lead to better solutions to professional problems, better conclusions, and will make you a better person overall. Notifications and excessive media consumption are not only making focused work more difficult and almost impossible, but also keeping you away from capitalizing on your professional experience. If you're constantly ingesting information, you never give yourself the chance to connect the dots. In today's world, you have to be intentional with boredom. Therefore, don't bring your smartphone to your bedroom. Don't bring your smartphone to the toilet. Don't use your smartphone when traveling. If you really need some distraction on a long flight, take a paper book with you. Allow for moments of intentional boredom during your day, knowing that in those moments of idleness, your brain is processing new information. So, stare into the window in the taxi cab. Don't use your smartphone when waiting in line in the supermarket or at the dentist, etc., etc. Be proud of your boredom, because it's a tactic and a tool that is rarely used today, therefore making you unique. The fifth chapter should have been the last one, but hey, I've got another one, a bonus one. My life hacks. In order to remain less stressed, more productive, more calm, and of service to my loved ones, I use 4 life hacks. Number 1, no TV. I don't watch TV, we don't own a TV, just we have a film projector to watch movies at home. Watching TV is far too easy and is a huge time waster. If we want to entertain ourselves, we choose intentionally a movie that a group of people spend a lot of time shooting and then producing. Therefore, we are sure that we're consuming high-quality entertainment. We don't use streaming video services for the same reason as we don't have a TV. It's far too easy to consume them mindlessly. If we want to watch a series, we buy it on DVD discs. If we want to own a movie because we like it, we buy it on DVDs. Why DVDs and not Blu-ray, for example? Well, because the catalog of DVDs is much larger in the world than the catalog of Blu-ray movies. Number 2, no news. I don't consume news of any kind. No newspapers, no news channels on the internet, no newsletters. Really, no news at all. After 10 years of not consuming news, I can tell you that I am calmer, I see the future as something optimistic, I trust people I meet, and I am confident that our world is slowly progressing in the right direction. Not consuming news has not made me a worse manager and has never been in the way of my professional responsibilities. Not once in 10 years. If something really meaningful happens in my country, someone will tell it to me. My accountant, one of my colleagues, or someone from my family. News nowadays exists not to inform you, but to scare you into doing something or buying something. That's the only role news plays today. It's a form of manipulation. Information is power. It's a lie. It's the opposite. Powerful people don't consume information. They think and solve problems. They reflect on ideas. They let boredom connect the dots. Number 3, no social media. I don't consume social media. The only social media channels I have are channels of distribution of my work. So, I use YouTube to publish my vlogs, and we publish a podcast with my wife using a podcast RSS feed, and we have our own websites. All those channels of distribution are not what I call ephemeral social media, meaning that on most popular social media sites like Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, the content you publish takes exactly the same amount of mental and physical energy to prepare as a blog post, but it disappears very, very fast, in under 1 hour, and it is not discoverable in the future. If you choose to publish your thoughts on ephemeral social media, the product of your effort will last 1 hour. Your chances of making viral content are close to your chances to winning $1 billion in a worldwide lottery. Don't fall into this trap. If you publish on your own website, on your podcast, or on YouTube, it will last forever and be searchable as long as you don't take this content down. On ephemeral social media, you're not in control of what your followers are seeing there. There is an algorithm between you and your audience. Even if you happen to have hundreds of thousands of followers, only a fraction of them will ever see your content. Algorithm-ruled ephemeral social media are also contributing to teenage depression, suicides, polarization of society, disintegration of democracy, and enclosing people in information bubbles. Those are groups of people who think the same and do not challenge their assumptions. And it's a pretty bad picture for intelligent human beings, don't you think? The 4th life hack is the rule of effort. I tend to think of effort when considering to spend my time on something. That is why I will always value a book more than a blog post, and a movie more than a YouTube vlog. There is, of course, bad books and bad movies, but I have a lesser chance to be disappointed by a book than by a blog post, because of the effort involved in creating a book versus the effort needed to write a blog post. In the same vein, I will usually choose paid services over free ones, and paid apps over free ones, because I want to support the creators and I want to reward their efforts. And I don't like ads. And here it is. It's the end of this course. Congratulations, you have not abandoned this course in the middle. You arrived at the finish line. Now I hope you will take a lot of value out of what I said and out of what I showed you. But if you have questions, of course, connect with me in the community section of my website, hardworksmart.com. And I will do my best to answer your questions. See you. Bye-bye.